Hello, today we are going to discuss about file system interface. File system provides users the method for storage and access to data as well as programs of the operating system where all users of the computer system can use it. File system consists of two parts, a collection of files that stores related data and a directory structure which organizes and provides information about all files in the system. A file is a named collection of related information that is recorded on secondary storage such as magnetic disk, magnetic tapes and optical disk. A file structure should be according to a required format that operating system can understand. For most users, the file system is the most visible aspect of any operating system. It provides mechanism to access data or programs on the storage. It consists of two parts, that is the collection of files and a directory structure. Each file occupies a contiguous address space on a disk. Disk address assigned is in linear order. File type refers to the ability of an operating system to distinguish different types of files such as text files, source files and executable files. Text files is a sequence of characters. Source files refers to a sequence of functions. Executable file is a series of code sections that the loader can bring into the memory and execute it. Following are the different types of files, their extensions and their functions. We have got executable file, its extension is .exe or .com or .bin or none. It is ready to run machine language program. We have object files which is represented by .obj extension or .o. It is generally a file that is obtained after compilation. Machine language is not linked. Source code extension can be .c, .cc, .java, .perl or .asm, and its function is that it's a source code in various languages. We have got batch file whose extension is .bat or sh. It's a commands to command interpreter. We have got markup, that is whose extension is XML, HTML, TEX. It is a textual data or documents. Then we have a word processor file whose extension is .xml, .rtf, .docx. It is various word processor formats. Then we have a library file whose extension can be .lib, .a, .so, .dll. It's the libraries of routines for programmers. We have got a print file or a view file whose extension is .gif, .pdf, .jpg. It is ASCII or binary file in a format for printing or viewing. We have archive file type whose extension is .rar, .zip, .tar. It is related files grouped into one file, sometimes compressed for archiving or storage. Then last we have a multimedia file type whose extension is .mpeg or .mov, .mp3, .mp4 or .avi, which is a binary file containing audio or AV information. There are different file operations. One is creating a file, another is writing to a file, that is at write pointer location, reading a file at a read pointer location, reposition within file, which is also known as a seek operation, deleting, truncate. Truncate means to erase the contents of a file but keeping its attributes. Another file operation is open fi, which is move the contents of entry fi from disk to the memory. Close fi is move the contents of entry fi in the memory to the directory structure on the disk. Several information is associated with opening a file. One is file pointer, which is pointer to the last read or write location. per process that has the file open. File open count. It is the counter of the number of times a file is open to allow removal of data from the open file table when last process closes it. Dislocation of the file. It is a cache of data access information. Access rights. It is for the per process access mode information that it contains. File locking is a mechanism that restricts access to computer file or to a region of file by allowing only one user or a process to modify or delete it in a specific time and to prevent reading of a file while it's being modified or deleted. Similar to read-write locks, we have got the shared lock and the exclusive lock. Shared lock is applied when we want to read the file as well as allowing others to read the same file. Exclusive lock is similar to the writer lock, is used when the file is to be used among a group of people and everyone has got the permission to make changes. Only one exclusive lock means that only one process at a time is allowed to make changes to the file. There are certain functions that return information about a file in buffer pointed by the stat buff. The stat structure defines the metadata of a file. It is defined in bits stat.h or which is included in sys stat.h. Stat and the fstat function retrieve information about a file pointed by the path name. Difference between lstat and stat function is if path name is symbolic link, then it returns information about the link, not the file that it refers to. Fstat is identical to stat except that the file about which information is to be retrieved is specified by the file descriptor. All the system calls retrieve the stat structure that contains the following fields. This is given as below. Difference between stat function and fstat function is stat function returns information about the file denoted by the path. Fstat function returns information about the file represented by the file descriptor fd. This is shown as follows. Open function maps the file to a file descriptor. Read and write function is used to read and write from or to a file. The simplest and the most common access method is the sequential access. In sequential access is based on a tape model of a file. Information in the file is processed in order one record at a time. A read operation, that is a read next, reads the next portion of the file and automatically advances the file pointer. A write operation, the write next, appends to the end of the file and advances to the end of the newly written material. Access method, that is the direct access. A file is made up of fixed length logical records that allow program to read and write rapidly in no particular order. In direct access, it is based on this model of a file. Immediate access to large amount of information is possible through direct access. Read n rather than read next function is used where n is the number of block is the block number. Write n rather than write next is used. Now the implementation or simulation of sequential access on a direct access file. In sequential access we use a function that is reset, read next and write next. Whereas in case of a direct access, reset is performed as some pointer cp equals to 0. Read next can be done by reading the particular field by read cp and then incrementing the pointer cp equals to cp plus 1 for reading the next thing. Then writing is done as write cp and then cp equals to cp plus 1. We have got two types of files, index sequential file and the relative file. In an index sequential file, it consists of two parts, the data file and the index file. The data file contains records in the sequential scheme. The index file contains the primary key and its address in the data file. A related file is a file in which each record is identified by the ordinal position in a file. This means that the record can be accessed randomly as well as sequentially. Disk can be divided into partitions. Disk or partition can be protected against failure. Partitioning is useful for limiting the size of individual file systems. In a disk, we can draw partitions or formatting can be performed. A typical file system organization is shown. Here, disk 1 is divided into two partitions, partition A and partition B, where we have got files as well as directories. In we have got disk 2, disk 3. We have got files that's been shared between disk 2 and disk 3. And there's just one partition, this is partition C. A file system can be thought of as an index or a database containing physical location of every piece of data on a hard drive or another storage device. Consider a Solaris. It has got the following types of file systems. TMPFS. It's a memory-based volatile file system for fast temporary input-output. OBGFS is the interface into kernel memory to get kernel symbols for debugging. CTFS is a contract file system for managing daemons. LOFS is a loopback file system, allows one file system to be accessed in place of another. PROCFS is a kernel interface to process structures. UFS, ZFS is a general purpose file system. The directory can be viewed as a simple table that translates file names into their directory entries. Both the directory structure and the files reside on a disk.